Welcome to the VI Department of Education's 2020-2021 Parent and Community Educational Conference. Research has shown that parental involvement is a key factor in student achievement and students' overall success in life. It is also known to be true that parents tend to participate more in their child's education when they know how and when they feel knowledgeable and equipped with the tools to do so. With this in mind, the VI Department of Education has provided professional development for parents over the years, and we are pleased to continue providing this important and necessary support. What's new at the department, however, is the professional development we are providing for the VI community. This change is due to the fact that successful school systems have strong, positive, and consistent community support. And with this goal of rebuilding the community's trust in the Virgin Islands public education system, I am delighted to bring this educational conference to you. Your participation in today's conference will help to transform our public education system. I look forward to hearing about your experience today and the areas of the VI public education system you would like to learn more about. Remember, together we can transform public education in the Virgin Islands. Enjoy today's session.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kadila Joseph, the Director of Procurement here at the Department of Education. Today, we will be discussing briefly the roles and responsibilities of the Department of Property and Procurement, or the Division of Procurement, as it pertains to vendor registration, doing business with the government of the Virgin Islands. Okay. Today we'll be sharing again information with you on doing business with the government of the Virgin Islands and how to find RFPs or find jobs and how to solicit, how to respond to the solicitations posed by the VIDE, as well as the government of the Virgin Islands Department of Property and Procurement. Welcome. Okay. All right. Today's session will be split in two sessions, one beginning now at 4:30 and how to become a vendor with the government of the Virgin Islands Department of Education, and the other will start promptly at 6, and it will discuss how to find and submit bids and or proposals for to render services and or goods to the Department of Education. Okay. So I wanted first to just be clear that the Department of Education is not an independent agency under the government of the Virgin Islands. And its procurement processes and its procurement laws and regulations are in fact regulated by the government, particularly the Department of Property and Procurement under the jurisdiction or the oversight of the Commissioner of Property and Procurement, as well as the Department of Education's Commissioner, Racquel Berry-Benjamin. Our external stakeholders, of course, include the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, specifically the Division of Cooperation and Trademarks, the Virgin Islands Department of License and Consumer Affairs, as they will be the ones who will be responsible for reviewing and processing your application to acquire a business license. Again, the VI Department of Property and Procurement, who is the government's controlling or the government's contracting arm in which oversees the GVI's procurement processes. We also have McConnell & Jones, one of the newest members, or one of our newest stakeholders, who is in fact our third-party fiduciary agent, that being the government of the Virgin Islands third-party fiduciary agent, and the United States Internal Revenue Service. While we go through the different requirements or the contracting ability documents that's required to acquire a vendor number and or register to do business with the government of the Virgin Islands, I will touch on how these various stakeholders play a role in acquiring those documents. Okay. Now, first and foremost, it is imperative that all potential bidders understand that they must possess a business license. Okay, they must possess a business license to provide the particular services and or goods that are being requested or required from the Department of Education. The Department of License and Consumer Affairs has oversight or will be responsible or is responsible for reviewing all business license applications. Okay. If the entity is registering in the territory of the Virgin Islands. There are cases, a lot of cases, which you can see the government or the Department of Education also conducts business with firms, vendors, contractors who are registered in their specific state of registration. By and large, in order for us to, the Department of Education, to do business, you must have a VI business license. You must have a federal tax identification number. Okay. All potential bidders, in addition to having a business license, all potential bidders must not be suspended or debarred from conducting services with the federal government on behalf of the government of the Virgin Islands. This includes the VIDE. This was not recently a requirement for the local government, but always a requirement when conducting business utilizing federal funds. After or following the 2017 hurricanes, the Commissioner of Property and Procurement, as recent as 2018, requested or mandated that all vendors register with SAM. Okay, it is pretty much a database in which anyone can search to ensure that, again, the vendor is not suspended or debarred from conducting services with the government on a whole. A lot of our projects are multi-funded, meaning local and or federally funded, or there are some that are also locally funded and will require federal reimbursement. So just err on the side of caution. It was requested, or the Commissioner of Property and Procurement implemented, that all vendors acquire SAM registration. Okay. Additionally, to become a vendor, all vendors must be an active vendor as determined by the Virgin Islands Department of Property and Procurement and the Virgin Islands Department of Education. How do I become an active vendor? In the next slide, you will see what documents are required to ensure that your vendor file remains up to date and active within both systems. Note that we have two vendor maintenance systems. One is managed by the Department of Property and Procurement, and that system pretty much is responsible for managing or monitoring all of our local funded projects. One of our external stakeholders, as I previously mentioned, is McConnell and Jones, the GVI's third-party fiduciary. That third-party fiduciary has administrative or fiscal oversight of all of the departments of education, the Department of Education's federal funds issued by the U.S. Department of Education. So with that being said, there are two separate vendor maintenance systems, one managed by the GVI, Department of Property and Procurement, and the other that is managed by the McConnell and Jones, the VI, the government of the Virgin Islands third-party fiduciary agent. Okay. All right, Miss Mitchell, you can move on. So what are our required contract and ability documents? So before a vendor can even think about registering with either the GVI, Department of Property and Procurement, or McConnell and Jones, we first stated that of course you must have a valid or current business license. You must be registered in SAM. There we accept or conduct business with sole proprietors, large corporations, not-for-profit corporations, um, and the like. All entities are required to have a business license, with the exception of course, not-for-profit corporations who are exempt from this requirement. They must complete a W-9. The W-9 template or format can be found on IRS's website. The most current version is a 2018 version. We will be looking for that. That must be filled out in its entirety as described on your business license. It should include your tax ID number, and it must be signed and dated within the current calendar year. All vendors must also have a general liability insurance coverage. This is imperative. Whether you are a mom and pop corporation or sole proprietorship or a multi-million-dollar entity, you must have general liability insurance. This insurance coverage, of course, protects not only the Department of Education from any harm that may be sustained during the course of any business transaction, but it also protects the vendor likewise, okay? The vendor must also have a certificate of good standing and or certificate of existence. I say certificate of good standing or existence because both documents or the issuance of either document is dependent on the type of corporation the entity or the type of entity the corporation exists as. For instance, the certificate of good standing is usually issued for incorporated corporations, and the certificate of existence is utilized for limited liability corporations. The main stakeholder responsible for issuing these documents, the good standing or certificate of existence, is the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Division of Corporations and Trademarks. Okay, so part one includes again your business license, which can be issued or which shall be issued by the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, or in the state of registration, just contact your local Secretary of State's office, and you should be able to apply for a business license. A completed W-9 signed and dated by the authorized signatory or the financial head of the organization. And you must also obtain a certificate of good standing and a certificate of existence. These two, the latter documents, can be applied for and received within 24 to 48 hours once your application is completed through the Office of Lieutenant Governor, Division of Corporations and Trademarks, and or your state of registration through the Secretary of State's office. Okay. When we get into the contracting aspect of acquisition, of procurement or acquisition, I would say, we've already procured, we're ready to acquire those services. And a professional service contract or a construction contract is being executed, reviewed, and executed. The part two of our contracting ability documents are required. The certificate of trade name registration is required or necessary when the entity has an alternate name or a trade name, better known as doing business as the Virgin Islands Department of Education, doing business as VIDE. Believe it or not, you need, or the corporation will need to register that trade name. And it's in this case, the example VIDE being a trade name. The corporation will need to register that trade name with the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Division of Corporation and Trademarks. Again, that application can be completed online simply by viewing the OLT's website. The certificate of corporate resolution is also required. It pretty much states or allows the government to know who is authorized to bind that corporation or to bind a particular corporation or entity into a contractual agreement. Here at the department or here in the government of the Virgin Islands, the only individuals responsible or who has that authority, I should say, the authority to bind their department into a contractual agreement are the commissioners of the respective department or the agency. The same applies for contracting office. I'm pretty sure you don't want your lay workers or your administrative assistant or whomever to be responsible for the fiduciary or the management of to be responsible for your business transactions, period. It's imperative that a certificate of corporate resolution be submitted and signed by either the secretary or an executive officer of the corporation, and attesting to another officer's or owner, president, whomever you want it, sole proprietor, whomever you want to describe the person as, attesting to that individual's authority to bind the corporation into a contractual agreement. Okay. The other contracting eligibility document that's required is your certificate of government insurance, or it's also known as your workers' compensation insurance. The certificate of government insurance can be acquired from the Department of Finance, Workers' Compensation Division, or the corporation, the entity may also purchase workers' compensation insurance coverage through their private insurer. Okay, so sometimes you will have we will accept either one of the policies, whether it's a certificate of government insurance or your workers' compensation coverage, and that's usually captured on your certificate of insurance with your general liability insurance, your automobile insurance, the like, through your private insurer. The articles of incorporation is pretty much the corporations, the for-profit corporations, leading instrument of organization, okay? That article of incorporation must be filed with your state office, the state, whichever state that the corporation is registered to do business in. Here in the Virgin Islands, as you have probably figured out by now, that office is the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Division of Corporation and Trademarks. The articles of organization is the same as the articles of incorporation. However, it applies to limited liability corporations. Both documents must be signed and filed with the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Division of Corporation and Trademarks. For those entities that exist as a non-profit organization, remember a few minutes ago, I mentioned that business licenses are not required for nonprofit organizations. However, we need evidence or proof. You know, the government, you know, the lawyers, they need proof that the company or the organization is actually a nonprofit organization. Therefore, in those cases, we will request a tax exemption letter, which is issued by the state, the federal Internal Revenue Service. Okay, and it pretty much says that the company is a 501c3 corporation and therefore exempt from paying taxes. Okay. All right. Once all documents are received, Okay, all of the requested or the required contracting ability documents are gathered and pooled, available, they're current. We now will move forward to registering the corporation or registering the entity to conduct business with the government of the Virgin Islands. So in this case, they will receive a vendor number. So we're going on to our next slide and we will discuss the vendor database system. So I previously stated that there are two vendor database systems, okay? And that is because we have the government of the Virgin Islands managing our locally funded projects, and we also have McConnell and Jones, the GVI's third-party fiduciary, managing or who has oversight over federal funds issued by the U.S. Department of Education. I would like to make that clear. McConnell and Jones only have third-party fiduciary oversight of federal funded projects issued by the U.S. Department of Education. All other projects, whether will be, or even though the funding is initially federally funded, it will be facilitated, or those funds, those projects, that purchase order, that vendor will be, their database or their information will be managed through the government of the Virgin Islands database system. Okay, so once all documents are gathered, acquired, the contractor, the vendor, the sole proprietor, however you like to describe yourself as, may submit their documents to vendor maintenance at dpp.vi.gov. There are one or two persons who are responsible for managing that box. Okay, once all documents are received, they will in any case respond back to you and say, hey, please see attached vendor number. In most cases, in other cases, you may also submit your documents, your contract and eligibility documents. And again, these documents, the type of documents are dependent on the type of entity the corporation or the vendor exists as. You can also send those documents to Mr. Abdul Smith at vide.vi. He will ensure that the information is reviewed and transmitted over to the government of the Virgin Islands Property and Procurement for vendor updates. The McConnell and Jones manages another vendor database system. They have asked, while their listing is not as extensive as the government of the VIs, it will require the same information. They will require pretty much that you complete a vendor maintenance form. And it pretty much asks for your corporation's contact info, name, address, email, and so forth. It also requires or asks that you include your EFT or your banking information, as this vendor this system is not in the business of printing checks. Most payments are issued via EFT. So we will ask for your banking information, your account number, your routing number, etc. Your business license. We want to ensure that you are licensed to conduct business in the territory of the Virgin Islands and know your state of registration. Your certificate of good standing, your W-9, and a void check. There's nothing worse than you not receiving or a vendor not receiving their monies after a hard day's work. And to avoid monies being transmitted into the incorrect account or being returned to the government, being returned to the department, the voided check is needed for validation. That information, that vendor packet, can be submitted to info.gvi@mjlm.com. That is our third-party fiduciary agent, McConnell and Jones, and Abdul Smith, abdul.smith@vide.vi. He is our vendor manager, procurement analyst / procurement analyst here within the division of procurement. Okay. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Now that we have registered and with the GVI, and we have acquired a vendor number either on one side or the other, the GVI or McConnell and Jones, the biggest question that we receive is, how do I get on the VIDE's vendor listing? How can the contractor get Ms. J's attention? How can the contractor get the Department of Education's attention? Next, Ms. Mitchell. It's simple. Like most business ventures, you have to introduce yourself. You have to introduce yourself. You want to get on the top of the radar. While we can go through a listing of 20 million vendors or 200 persons on the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs website to see who has a business license and who is eligible to provide services and who is licensed to do this, so who's licensed to do that. It's easier for you or the contractor to introduce yourself. Called networking, it's called sales, it's called marketing. You would reach out to the respective school districts, the superintendent's office, the maintenance division, or even more personally, the office of the commissioner, and again, myself, to say, hey, this is the type of service or goods that I can provide and can offer. How I would like to do business with you. And my first question is, what is it? Let me see. A few months ago, I got a request for a new eco-friendly house cleaning or house antibacterial products or household good and cleaning products. And I said, okay, well, we can arrange that, but I want to see how well your product works. I got a request, hey, Ms. J, we would like you to explore or consider utilizing alternate building materials when you're considering or when you're preparing your RFPs for new school construction and or maintenance, the like. And my next question is, come on, no problem. Send me an email, send me all of your contract and ability documents so I can first, of course, make sure that I'm not wasting my time with someone who is not registered to do business or who has no plans to do register to do business with the GVI. But let us see, let's try your product. Okay, set up an introductory meeting so we can know who the players are. You can provide or distribute a sample product. We do a lot of pilots. We want to see how well this is going to work. And I notice a lot of vendors may not like doing this, but you can network amongst or network with like-minded businesses. Believe it or not, there are some contractors we may reach out to you or vendors we may reach out to, and they will say, well, I don't have this product or I don't have this. However, I think so and so down the road will be better able to meet or to meet the needs that the department is requesting. And that's how you get our attention. Vendors, again, it's customer service.
Good day, parents. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the information valuable to understanding the VIDE's functions and beneficial to your ease of engagement with the Department of Education. You may access this information anytime by visiting vide.vi and clicking on the For Families tab. Thank you.